became the unintentional villain when my sisters discovered they were renting my spare rooms and told other tenants, causing a revolt. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and I bought my home right before the pandemic hit. The world shut down, and I happily retreated into my remote work cocoon, honestly, perfect for a natural introvert like me. The house was much larger than I strictly needed, but I only managed to afford it because the family selling needed a quick sale. The house itself is spacious, with a finished attic and basement that I quickly converted into self-sufficient apartments. The basement has its own entrance, but can still connect to the main house if needed. There are 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and the master has a walk-in closet. Not long after I moved in, both of my sisters, then 25 and 27, hit hard times. They needed to downsize fast after their own roommates moved back home during the pandemic, and neither of us had the option of moving in with parents. I offered them my spare rooms at below market rates, made it clear they needed to sort out their own food, and told them that the rent was mostly to cover the increased bills. At that time, both sisters were still in school and working, so my offer gave them a little more financial breathing room. Before I knew it, a girl my sisters knew got evicted when her landlord's family needed their home back. I felt bad, so I offered her the basement apartment at nearly market rate, though still a little cheaper since, well, it's a basement. Word traveled fast. Soon a friend of a friend heard about my arrangement and asked if I had a spot. The attic was still open, so I rented it to him for another near market rate. I'm not one for drama, so I made sure to write up clear rental agreements for everyone outlining basic rules, rent amounts, and what would happen if they couldn't pay. I told them to read the contract, sign it, and keep their own copy. Collecting rent was always simple. First Saturday of each month, I get personal checks with the payee line left blank. I always assumed this was because they didn't want to risk spelling my odd name wrong and the check bouncing. Now here comes the twist. I still have one room that I claim as my office, and it stays locked up. My friend, who knows my sisters, ran into them one day and heard about this extra room. She mentioned her cousin, an 18-year-old girl, would be starting college nearby and wondered if my landlord would rent the room to her. I brushed off the question, thinking she must misunderstand, and explained that room is my at-home office. She asked if I was paying rent for it. Seriously? I reminded her I own the house. Why would I pay rent for my own room? She went quiet, apologized for pushing, and told me how hard it's been finding somewhere for her cousin. I explained all my tenants are solid through December when leases renew, and while I'd offer a spot if someone moved, it was unlikely since everyone gets along too well. Fast forward a few days. My sisters asked how that talk with my friend went. I told them her cousin won't be moving in, and explained why. That's when they started grilling me on why I wouldn't let her move in. Why not move my office to my bedroom or one of the main rooms to stop paying rent for an extra room? When I asked what they meant, they looked baffled. They thought I paid rent on the office. When I clarified, their jaws dropped. In all this time, they had no idea I was the actual landlord. Apparently, they never actually read the rental agreements before signing. They lost it. They told me I should have told them, and family shouldn't have to pay rent to family. I explained it was just to cover the increase in bills, that I was barely breaking even, and if they insisted, I'd happily start charging them market rate at renewal, which they could now easily afford after 5 years of saving on rent. They got angry, accused me of holding rent above their heads. Of course, they vented to the other tenants, who suddenly decided they deserved lower rent, since being friends with my sisters apparently merited a discount now that they knew I was the landlord. Somehow, the deal they had is no longer good enough. I told them directly, they had until December to decide if they wanted to renew, but I wouldn't be lowering rent, and nothing in our original agreement suggested that knowing the landlord would affect the cost. Now, they're all acting like I'm kicking them out, even though I just asked them to decide if they wanted to stay under the current agreement. The attic tenant, thankfully, wasn't upset. He said he always knew I was the landlord from the agreement but left the payee line blank, because, again, my name is hard to spell. He basically begged me not to kick him out, as his family has disowned him over some pretty heavy differences. For the record, I don't care about his views, his family's attitude is the disturbing part. All of a sudden, I'm the villain in my own home, and the atmosphere is chilly. I genuinely don't feel welcome anymore. Now I'm wondering, honestly, am I the bad guy here? Would I really be wrong not to renew anyone's lease over this growing hostility? Update 1. Let me try to break everything down bit by bit. First, Mr. Attic, I'm keeping him. I pulled him aside first and privately told him that I wouldn't be renewing the others' leases in December. I asked if he'd want to rent the basement at market value, but he declined, saying he was comfortable in the attic. I advised him that, for his own sake, it would be best to let the others believe I was cleaning house across the board so he wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. He agreed, immediately took his social media private, and even sent me screenshots of a group chat he'd been dragged into. Speaking of the group chat, my sisters and the other set of tenants, Mr. and Mrs. Basement, started up a chat to complain about how uncompromising and greedy I am. Their ideas ranged from refusing to pay rent to threatening to pay only in part. The basement tenants even joked about one of them losing their job so they could ask me for leniency, claiming I was too stuck up to be kind about the rent. Then came the harassment. My sisters and Mr. and Mrs. Basement ran to their friends and families, complaining about the rent, my supposed lies, and my inability to consider other perspectives or needs. Ever since, I've had a steady stream of calls, DMs, texts, and social media posts aimed at me. I finally made my accounts private, disabled some messaging, and told all 4 of them to put a stop to it or I'd get my lawyer involved. Spoiler, they didn't. After a night to think, I brought them all together for a discussion about rent. My sisters looked smug while Mr. and Mrs. Basement exchanged confident glances. I bluntly told them I wouldn't be renewing their leases in December. Their actions, attitudes, and lack of consideration made me feel unvalued and publicly humiliated by their families. I was feeling unwelcome in my own home. I told them if they found a new place before December, I wouldn't charge them for breaking lease, but if there was any damage, their security deposits would be withheld until everything was tallied. If the damages exceeded their deposit, I'd take them to court. I made it clear I was done being kind and understanding to people who thought so little of me. I also warned them that if I chose to break the leases myself, I could, and they'd have only 30 days. Of course, that led to chaos, yelling, insults, swearing. Even Mr. Attic joined in, but he started yelling at the others for getting him kicked out when he didn't do anything. He stormed off in dramatic style, slamming his attic door. Later, he texted me laughing emojis, admitting he wouldn't be able to keep a straight face any longer. When the yelling died down and they asked what they were supposed to do, I set down a stack of ads for apartments and houses for rent in the area. I told them it was time they started looking. I offered to help my sisters pay for their moving truck, but told the basement tenants they'd need to ask their families for help. Mr. Basement glanced at the stack, eyes wide, and asked in disbelief if I was fucking serious. I told him those prices weren't mine to judge or change. His current place was below market because I had a say in it. Market rent for a 1-bedroom here is well over $1,500 a month if he wants to be near work and walkable stores. He has a 2-bedroom for far less. My sisters grabbed up some of the ads and the 27-year-old just started crying. She couldn't afford rent on her own, given her student loans and credit card debt. I told her, too bad. I gave you a good deal out of kindness, and you sent an army after me. I might have considered letting you stay if you hadn't been so nasty. I pointed out that between the 4 of them, they could probably swing a 2-bedroom, and then I got up and left. Now, they refused to talk to me. My sisters spent the night in the basement, and if I walked past the door I could hear shrieks and crying coming from inside. Sure, part of me feels bad, but I keep reminding myself why I made this decision. Legally, if I want them out, I can give them 30 days notice since they're inside my own home. I checked with my lawyer, and this was clearly spelled out in their rental contracts. If I do have to resort to court, and they refuse to leave, I got some handy advice from another landlord who had to evict his own brother. I can't physically remove them, but I can make their lives uncomfortable. There's nothing stopping me from taking doors off hinges or remodeling while their stuff is still there. I can turn off water or electric for their sections during remodeling. Quick note, that would be strictly for remodeling purposes, not as a way to force them out, but as squatters, they can't stop me from fixing up my own house. Honestly, it might seem like an asshole thing to do, but if it comes to that, they started it, and I do want to repaint and make some changes. The harassment has only gotten worse now that non-renewal is official. I've started keeping my phone on silent, collecting all the messages, voicemails, and emails to hand off to my lawyer next week. I told them to call off their friends and family, but they haven't. I even asked Mr. Attic if he knew anyone who might want the basement, and he does. Some friends from his community are interested since they're looking for places away from roommates or family. A quick note about security, I have cameras outside and in common rooms, pointed at the front and back doors, upstairs hallways, and the door to the basement. The tenants have access to the entry point cameras. Mr. Attic gets the hallway to his area, the basement tenants have the feed leading to their door, and everyone has access to the outside cameras. I'm considering cutting off their access to the outdoor cameras. They can't tamper with the feeds since they're only guests in the system, and all footage is saved externally anyway. For my own peace of mind, I may cut everyone off except Mr. Attic. A lot of people ask about our family. There really isn't anyone. My sisters have no relationship with their fathers or their fathers' families. My own father died due to his own actions, with no sympathy owed there, and his family shunned me in the aftermath. As for our mother, she's just a cup of ash at the funeral home. There's no family left except my sisters, and clearly that isn't working out. For now, I'm erring on the side of caution and may install more cameras just in case. That's where things stand. Update 2. I've met Mr. Attic's friends. 2 of them have agreed to take the bedrooms my sisters are currently occupying when they move out. From the first meeting, I could tell they were wonderful people. We talked at length, and one of them even helped me change a tire on my car after our meeting. I got a flat, felt embarrassingly clueless, but she walked me through the whole process step by step, letting me do it but calmly explaining how. It's kind of wild, I'd never changed a tire before, but now I know how. After the chaos with the tenants and harassment, my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter to everyone who had contacted me. Not just that, he filed for restraining orders and started a claim for slander and defamation since there were so many posts, some tagging me or just straight up using my name, calling me an unfit landlord, a slumlord, greedy, a bitch, and, bizarrely, a homewrecker. Apparently, I came on to Mr. Basement, as if he is absolutely not my type, and no amount of money would ever make me touch that man. These legal things take time, but there was almost an immediate drop-off in calls, messages, and harassment. It's finally getting a little quieter. As for Mr. and Mrs. Basement, they've been served their notice. They were actively spreading lies and deception. Since then, they've gone totally silent, but their deadline is only 30 days away. Every day, I post a sticky note on their porch reminding them how many days they have left. Today I saw them starting to move out smaller stuff, which prompted me to reflect on all this. If I stand by the top of the stairs, I can hear Mrs. Basement crying a lot. I suspect they might be moving back in with family, which is what they've been trying to avoid by living in my basement. From what I know, her mother is toxic, her father has remarried to a woman who hates her, and Mr. Basement's family actively dislikes her. They even tell her to her face she isn't family, especially because she won't give her boyfriend a family, which is horrendous. She can't have kids for medical reasons, and they aren't even married. Thanks to Mr. Attic, I have screenshots of their group chat, and there's a ton of evidence of them feeding lies to other people, talking about how they told this or that person various stories. Mr. Basement was the one who claimed I came onto him, which sent his girlfriend into a frenzy. I'm sure she doesn't realize he made it up just to make the lies seem more believable. When he first made the claim, his girlfriend blew up my phone and social media, then dragged the whole mess to others. My own sisters said they weren't surprised by my behavior, which honestly hurt more than almost anything. I've never done anything like that. My sisters each received their notice too. The 25-year-old is already moving in with a couple of friends who clearly think I'm the worst. They sometimes come to help her move her things, shooting me nasty looks or making loud, pointed comments for me to hear. She's been dumping my food in the trash and down the sink just to spite me, so I got myself a mini fridge for my room. She's taken to screaming at my locked door at night. Now I take my work to local cafes or libraries, never the same place 2 days in a row, just to avoid her shrieking whenever she thinks I'm working. The 27-year-old, on the other hand, has started begging me to let her stay since she can't afford to live on her own and no one else is willing to take her in. I didn't even know she had a boyfriend, but as soon as he got the lawyer's cease and desist, he broke up with her. He was one of the ones causing trouble, but once the lawyer stepped in, he disappeared. According to Mr. Attic, he overheard her tell someone on the phone that the guy could move in if he helped her get me to leave or back down, because it's family property. She was on a call outside, and on Mr. Attic's tip-off, I caught the proof on camera. Quick note, my sisters are not moving in together, they each blame the other for what's happened. They blame the basement tenants, and vice versa. They all collectively blame me, too, because apparently I'm just pure evil. But deep down, I know they each think the others pushed me to this point. Now, only Mr. Attic still has camera access. The cameras weren't part of the rental agreements, so I took everyone else's access away, and they lost their minds. They tried covering or messing with the cameras until I warned them they'd be held liable for any damage. Now, I just get middle fingers and aggressive stares from the cameras, nothing more. There's probably something I'm missing. I can barely sleep. I'm swamped with getting them all out, keeping up with work, trying to find good tenants for the empty rooms, and getting the basement redone before renting it again. The whole experience is exhausting, but seeing their stuff finally leave gives me hope for better days soon. Update 3. Let's start with my sisters. The younger, let's call her Lily, upped her petty food sabotage. When she realized I bought myself a mini fridge, she tried leaving raw shrimp stuffed in the houseplants and hidden behind the couch cushions. Took me 2 days to find the source, a slow, ever-worsening stench like a tide pool died under the heating vent. At first, I was horrified, then just incredulous. She also never learned to properly seal vacuum bags, so the smell was unmistakable. A quick, quiet word from my lawyer about property damage and malicious intent shut that down, though not before Mr. Attic threatened to buy a hazmat suit and start billing her for emotional distress. Meanwhile, my older sister, Camille, made a Hail Mary to stay, which meant persistent late-night emails, not to me, but to the university where she adjuncts. She sent rambling essays about my driven careerism, how she had contributed significantly to my life, her cited examples, teaching me to braid hair once in the 4th grade, and inspiring my work ethic by existing, and why I should be forced by the school or local nonprofits to provide her affordable transitional housing. She CC'd me on one, maybe thinking I'd cave if a university administrator noticed. Instead, the admin replied, to everyone, that the school could not intervene in private property disputes and to contact legal aid. I framed this reply and taped it to her bedroom door. The basement war reached its own fever pitch. Mr. and Mrs. Basement got wind that their new rental application was denied. Turns out, Mr. Basement listed slumlord conflict as a reason for leaving his previous address. He also tried to get me in trouble with city code enforcement, lodging anonymous complaints about fake mold and fictitious broken fire alarms. The code inspector showed up. He's the same guy who approved my renovations 3 years ago and just spent 15 minutes drinking my coffee. The only change is now Mr. and Mrs. Basement dodge my gaze in the hallway as if the code inspector deputized me to enforce silence on pain of exorcism. He almost did. He told them, in front of me, you know you're lucky you found someone who charges below market, right? In the midst of this, recruitment for the new tenants got lively. Mr. Attic's friends, let's call them Ash and Danny, started showing up on weekends to help me measure for furniture layouts. We had a vision board afternoon, flipping through IKEA catalogs at my dining table while Mrs. Basement passive-aggressively played the song Take This Job and Shove It on repeat in the basement loud enough that my floorboards buzzed. Now, for what shocked me most, the sudden escalation to actual, albeit ineffective, legal action against me. One afternoon, I received a hand-delivered letter, yes, a physical letter, wax-sealed in garish pink. Inside, a notice that Mr. and Mrs. Basement were formally challenging their lease termination citing constructive eviction and emotional damages. Cited evidence included their exclusion from the household Wi-Fi, they never paid for the password, the felt presence of surveillance, which they signed for in the lease and which the city saw and approved, and the withholding of community. They also included screenshots of their own group chat and, bizarrely, a photo of me at age 12 dressed as an angry tree for a school play. Either this was a joke, or someone Googled and got stuck on my mom's old Facebook. I called my lawyer, who choked back laughter. The case lasted a single Zoom call with a free mediation program, which they left when told that emotional damages are not payable by a landlord unless actual injury occurs, and no one was allergic to my 12-year-old angry tree. The damages to the house so far are minor but infuriating. Lily colored the insides of every built-in bookshelf with highlighter, to see if you'd notice. Camille superglued wine corks to the pantry handles. Mr. Basement left sticky notes reading Slumlord Palace everywhere, including the mailbox, the attic stairs, and my actual pillow. I, in turn, stuck them over his sneakers when he left them by the front door. Mrs. Basement poured cheap body glitter in the dryer lint trap. It's a saga. Through it all, my new tenants remained an oasis. Ash taught me to patch and repaint drywall. I needed it. Lily tried to carve freedom over her light switch before leaving. Danny, who also bakes, left surprise banana bread on my step. We sat late some nights, commiserating over absurd roommate horror stories. It's weird how quickly comfort rebounds, a little found family to offset old wounds. Mr. Attic, sensing my exhaustion, gifted me noise-canceling headphones. You deserve peace, he texted. I almost cried. Here's the wildest bit. 3 days before the final lease expiration, Camille came to me with a legitimate offer, a loan agreement, 1-year term, interest, at 2%, so she could stay just until summer. It was word processed, with her digital signature. When I told her the bank gives better rates, she lost it, hurled her morning coffee at my porch, and stormed out. She later shoved 3 crumpled $5 bills under my door for all the damn coffee over the years. I Venmo'd it back with a gif of a squirrel sipping espresso. Move-out day arrived. The only real drama was Mrs. Basement's parents showing up, shouting that I had ruined their daughter's ability to trust women forever. I politely declined the invitation to damnation. Lily? She left without saying goodbye. Camille texted from her car that she was blocking my number for the foreseeable future, but then spent the next 2 days using new emails to wish me ill luck, good luck, general luck, and at one point to apologize for the glue. The house, finally, is mine again. No yelling, no stink bombs, no random off-brand cereal in the fridge. The attic and the 2x bedroom spaces are freshly cleaned, painted, with help from Ash and Danny, and another volunteer friend who, confusingly, brought 3 kittens to help with the moving energy. They did nothing but nap in boxes. Mr. Attic still prefers his attic lair. Ash and Danny brought plants and books and scented candles that don't make me gag. The 3 of them gave me a housewarming too. 0 inches party, a potluck, laughter, banana bread, and music. I finally walked into my master bedroom, took a deep breath, and realized, for the first time, this place felt like home again. Mr. Attic, Ash, and Danny took a group photo on the porch to commemorate the new era. When I posted it, with permission, one of my old colleagues replied, "You finally have the house you deserve." I think they're right. As for my sisters and ex-tenants, they're out there, though rumor has it Lily's already angling to get into a co-op downtown, and Camille is. Well, she's still sending me updates to an old email account about the difficulties of independence. The Basement duo moved back with family. I genuinely hope it works out better for them. For myself, after months of high drama, pettiness, legal threats, and glue, I've learned painfully but clearly, kindness isn't weakness, boundaries aren't cruelty, and sometimes the only way to clean house is literally to clean house. Update 4. It's been almost 2 months since the last tenant box thumped down my front steps, and for the first time since lockdown, the house has what I can only describe as good acoustics, laughter echoing down the freshly painted halls, music from shared playlists instead of shouted arguments, and the small, magical silence of people simply coexisting, without drama. But if you think the story ends with everyone vanishing into the distance, you'd be wrong, because, honestly, the aftershocks were weirder than the main quake. Let's start with the stragglers, my sisters. Lily, after her shrimp warfare phase, actually moved into that downtown co-op. The way I found out? A handwritten apology note taped to my mailbox, complete with a gift card for the Korean bakery we always joked about splurging on in college. Inside the card, she'd written, "I'll pay you back for the bookshelf thing once I stop living on beans and rice. Sorry about the shrimp. P.S.
I took the basil plant, hope that's okay?
It wasn't, but I let it slide. Basil is a small price for peace, her text started, slow, tentative, mostly to Ash, who had become the surprise family mediator by default. One night Ash held up her phone and said, "Your sister wants to know how to unclog a garbage disposal. Should I tell her to use a wrench or just say plumber?" We all laughed so hard we cried. There is, apparently, hope for at least a truce. I sent Lily a disassembled IKEA shelf, her old one, freshly sanded, as olive branch. She sent back a selfie with her cat and civilian fridge. Camille, though, was all in on her email campaign, after failed appeals to my employer, the university, and a local tenants advocacy group, way out of their jurisdiction. She pivoted to the media. That's right, one rainy Thursday, I came home from errands to find a reporter from the local alternative paper parked outside, cheerily introducing herself as fact-finding about post-pandemic housing stress and young adults forced to leave home. I just about snorted my coffee when she called me the matriarch. Once I clarified, on camera, that no, my sisters are not minors, and that yes, renting a room to adults is legal and not a Dickensian hardship, we ended up talking about pet peeves, in rental agreements instead. The article ran a week later. Camille wasn't named. Her closing salvo was a 42-point email titled "Family is More Than Property," which was so passive-aggressive that even my voicemail program flagged it as likely spam. But the harassment stopped, and, shockingly, I heard she picked up a short-term counseling gig at a new university 6 hours away. Maybe distance is the healthiest boundary. The basement duo? Here's where things truly spiraled. They apparently broke up 2 weeks after moving in with Mrs. Basement's family. How do I know? Because 2 months after move out, the local police called me. Mrs. Basement reported that her ex tried to break into his old space. Except, get this, he'd showed up at my house, at 3 a.m., still using the old code on the digital lock. I watched on camera as he realized the code was changed, banged a fist on the door, then slumped down on the stoop sobbing into a gym bag. Danny noticed on the porch camera, called me, and we both debated, for about 2 breaths, whether to open the door before she called non-emergency dispatch. I left T and a note, "You need help and not from me, please get some." I blocked them both after that, but did leave info for the local mutual aid group wedged in the porch railing. Something about all that anger just dissolved into the shapeless, deep sadness. That's how the story ends for them, so far as I know. Split up, family in chaos, but, at least for Mrs. Basement, a fresh start. I hope. Now, let's talk about life in the reclaimed house, which, by the way, is thriving. Housewarming too. Zero seamlessly slipped into family dinner Fridays, which alternates between Ash's vegan chili nights and Danny's baking marathons. Occasionally, Ash's little sibling crashes on the couch to escape their own roommate drama, and Mr. Attic, who finally revealed his name as Eli, recently admitted he's working on a graphic novel about absurd pandemic housemate stories. When I made the joke that no one would believe a word of it, he grinned and slid a sketch of me in pajamas wielding a Lysol spray like a flamethrower. But the best, wildest thing, the rest of the house. With the attic, basement, and 2 bedrooms all finally comfortable, we held an open house for friends of friends, with coffee and banana bread, to find the last roommate. Instead of a random stranger, we met Ray, an older grad student, quiet and considerate, who brought an origami bouquet. We all clicked instantly. It was like pausing a years-long game of musical chairs to discover you'd always had exactly the number of seats. With new tenants came new rhythms, but also new challenges. Because, during the apartment tour, someone pointed out that our property line seemed off. Cue, us discovering the fence at the back, installed before my time, illegally annexed 6 feet of the neighbor's neglected lot. That meant a round of awkward neighborly introductions. They'd been renting to traveling nurses, who sometimes left trash bags by the fence. It was tense, right up until Ash organized a Saturday cleanup, and we all, old tenants, new friends, nurses and all, spent the morning hauling garbage and, hilariously, assembling tiki torches for boundaries, both literal and metaphorical. 2 days later, I found a basket on the porch, banana bread, but this time from the neighbors, with a note that said, "Welcome to the block, for real this time." For the first time in 4 years, neighbors waved when I walked my trash cans out. If you want closure, Camille still, every so often, sends newsletters about her successes. I was named Faculty of the Month, occasionally veering into subtle digs, so grateful to learn about real boundaries. Lily's texts now include only photos of her latest thrift store finds. Mr. Basement is, last I heard, off-grid, possibly backpacking in Arizona. Mrs. Basement started a niche TikTok about living with difficult in-laws. But in this house? Eli plays guitar on the attic landing. Danny leaves warm bread on my desk, Ash grows lemon balm in the window. Ray has created the world's most elaborate renter spreadsheet, for happy, healthy boundaries, and started a weekly tea and tax night. The only drama is whose sourdough starter is overtaking the fridge space. I sometimes wake up, now, to actual quiet and the sunrise spilling across my office, which, yes, is still mine, and realize, clean house isn't just about getting rid of bad roommates, but letting in the wild miracle of really good ones.